So in this video I'm going to be going over 5 vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have collectible value and are worth investing in and are at cheap prices right now. And it's going to be more than 5 cards, but what this video is going to be about is kind of showing people that may be interested in investing in vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards or collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and what gives those old vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards their value and why they are so collectible and valuable with being collectible. And then before I start, I want to emphasize that anytime you're talking about trading cards, whether it be sports cards or non-sports cards like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, condition is everything. Even if you have a rare, valuable card, if it's in poor condition, it's going to harshly reduce the value of that card. So when I'm talking about these cards, I'm exclusively talking about cards that are in near mint to mint condition and not in terribly played or creased, damaged condition. And so to start off here at number 5, it's going to be the Ultra Rares from Legacy of Darkness, the first edition Ultra Rares to be specific. And these cards are quite inexpensive right now. You can pick these Ultra Rares up for first edition LOD for $5 or less for most of these. The only one that's really more than $5 is the Air Knight Parsha and possibly like the Fiber Jar. But the reason why these cards are valuable, or going to be valuable, I should say, and possibly in the future, more in the future, is that there's obviously people know about the horrible centering on the Legacy of Darkness sets, that these cards can have terrible centering, which makes them difficult to grade as PSA 10s. And so what that does is it gives a challenge for collectors to try and get the entire set of these holographic cards graded as PSA 10s, but it doesn't make it impossible because there are, these are set cards, so they're available in large quantities, but you also have to battle that centering issue where, like, this Marauding Knight or Marauding Captain, obviously the centering on this card is bad. So the reason why this is at number 5 is that it has an asterisk next to it because it has to be with good centering. But these cards, yeah, you can pick these cards up for really cheap right now, and it's basically like no risk to the investment, which is why I think these are so good. And that you don't even have to get these cards graded, send them off to get graded. You could just hold on to them and wait for these cards to start rising up in value and sell them to people who are interested in grading them to try to chase after those PSA 10s. And so these cards will be rising up in value. I'm almost certain of it. And what's interesting also about these cards too is why they're so cheap is that most of these cards were pretty terrible. Like Freed the Matchless General, not that great of a playing card. Yamada Dragon was not that great either. It's a 2-sacrifice card for a monster that's going to return to your hand at the end of the turn. So most of these cards were pretty bad. Fiber Jar was a good card, but it was banned. Marauding Captain was a pretty good card, but got limited, and then eventually just kind of got trumped by other cards that were printed in Yu-Gi-Oh, and so it just kind of went out of the meta pretty fast. Alright, and then for number 4 here, we have the Dark Sage, and there's actually 2 of these cards. These are the first 2 printings of Dark Sage. The first one over here is the Dawn of Duelist promo Dark Sage that's got the prismatic rare to it, a secret rare holofoil. This was actually the first printing of Dark Sage, just by a few months, but it is the first printing. And then the other one is the Ultra Rare Dark Sage from Dark Beginning 1, a reprint set. But this was actually a new card that was introduced into that set, other than this, but it was still like the second printing of it. The first time it was printed in a set and widely available, not just as a promo card. I like the potential of this card. It was a card used in the anime mostly. This card was never playable at all. The summoning conditioning on this card is just so difficult, and then it's not even that good for how difficult it is to summon. But it was used in the anime between Yugi and Joey, and was actually the card that Yugi used to beat Joey. This is also kind of like a forgotten card, really, because even though it was shown in the anime, it was only on the screen for maybe a minute or so, because as soon as Yugi got this card out and summoned it, he pretty much won the duel right afterwards, and then that was it. And so, that was the only appearance of the Dark Sage as far as I know, and it was only for, that 1 minute, basically, and then it was gone. And so most people forgot about this card, really, and Even like the Dark Sage and the Dawn of the Duelist promo, it's kind of overshadowed a lot because there's a Winged Dragon of Ra promo within the Dawn of the Duelist that's more sought after than this card. But like I said, this is a card that was showed in the anime. It's a Dark Magician variation card. So I see a lot of potential in both of these cards, and they're only $10 really each, either one. And I like both of them. I'm not sure which one will be more valuable. I'm guessing the Dawn of the Duelist Prismatic one, because it's just in that secret rare Prismatic that looks really nice, will be the more valuable one later to come. But I like the potential of both of these cards. And then going on to number 3, we have the DDS Promos, the 3 other promos, the 3 not so sought after promos. Obviously for the DDS, there's the Dark Magician, the Blue Eyes, and the Yugioh that are all in the Prismatic Secret Rare that are really highly sought after. In those PSA 10 grades, they can go up to $1,000 for like the Blue Eyes, and $800 for the Dark Magician. But what we have here are the other 3 that are forgotten about and not really talked about as much. But the reason why I like these cards, for one, they are the Prismatic Rare, which looks nice on them. These cards weren't really reprinted much, except for Acid Trap Hole. They got reprinted in like Invasion of Chaos Special Edition packs. But Salamander and Yugioh, however you pronounce it, they weren't really reprinted much at all. And also what I like about these cards is that people are going to want to finish off their DDS promo sets. So, if you got the Dark Magician, the Blue Eyes, and the Yugioh, you might as well get these 3 cards as well to go along and complete the entire promo set. And then also what I like about these cards is that they're really cheap. They're only like about $5 each. So you can get the whole, all 3 for the $5 set. If you want to just go after just one, per se, I think the Yugioh is going to be the most valuable out of all. For one, it's a monster card. It's got a nice, pretty nice artwork to it. Pink dragons, kind of cool looking. It's not a playable card at all. It's a 2 sacrifice for 2,500 in attack, so not a very good card at all. And then also, this card just wasn't printed all that much afterwards. The DDS promo is the only printing I know of this card. I'm sure it got reprinted at some point, but I just don't know of it. And then at number 2, we have some more anime cards that were really prevalent. The first edition MRD Super Rares, Harpy Lady Sister, and Karibo. The Karibo I have is actually a European one, but you want the North American first edition prints. And I like these cards a lot. They're only about like $10 each right now as loose cards. And then as PSA 10s, first edition, Metal Raider cards as super rares, they're about $50 to $60 each. So even at that price, I like them as a PSA 10 graded cards too. So if you wanted to, obviously that's not exactly cheap, $50 or $60 for a card. But if you wanted to go after some PSA graded cards, these 2 I think have a lot of potential. And compared to other PSA 10 graded cards, aren't as ridiculously expensive, in the hundreds of dollars range. But the reason why I also like these cards is both of them are used in the anime a lot. Karibo was one of Yugi's favorite cards, used it a bunch, and it was prevalent throughout the entire anime. Even towards the end of the anime when you got way newer cards that were being used. This is a card that from Duelist Kingdom he still had along with him and was using. And then Harpy Lady Sisters, obviously the card that Mai used, probably the most memorable female character out of the Yugioh series in the anime. And then also the Harpy Lady Sisters was used in the Harpy Ladies deck, which was actually quite a decent deck when it first came out, and got those support cards to go with it. Made it a pretty strong deck, and was a really popular deck as well. So that's part of also why I like the super rare for Harpy Lady Sisters. And then also these are both MRD cards. Metal Raiders being the second set. You're talking about really old vintage Yu-Gi-Oh! There when you're talking about just the second set released in the North American English, and was a really popular set. The booster boxes for first edition North American print Metal Raiders, those things are going for $600 to $800 right now. So these super rares at $10 I think are pretty good investments. And then lastly, number 1 is going to be the BPT promo cards. The secret rares, the 2002 version, not the 2003, and that's important because I'll go over it in a little bit. But just to show right away real quick, here is a regular BPT promo card with the hollow foil starting in the upper right hand corner and going down into the left hand corner. And then here is the reverse like error version, where the hollow foil is going in the opposite direction, starting in the top left hand corner and going down into the bottom right hand corner. And so I'm not sure exactly which one of these are more rare, the reverse or the corrected version. I believe they're pretty much both at the same rarity. I'm assuming that the reverse was printed first, and then when they did the second print run, the correction was made. So I don't think either one of them are more rare than the other, but if I'd have to guess, I'd say that the reverse is going to be the more valuable of the two, just because it isn't an error card, and it's kind of a unique error with the hollow foil going in the wrong direction. And this error on these BPT cards, the 2002 BPT 10 cards, goes for all of them, not just the Lord of D. So all 6 of the cards have this error, and then have the corrected version. And so here you can see as well the Black Skull Dragon has the hollow foil going in the wrong direction. The Summon Skull also has the hollow foil going in the wrong direction. The Blue Eyes White Dragon as well. And I don't have the Dark Magician or the Red Eyes with me. But these cards, they're all really highly iconic cards except for the Lord of D. So, you know, you're talking about Blue Eyes, Summon Skull, Dark Magician, Black Skull Dragon, and Red Eyes Black Dragon. So, you know, 5 of the 6 cards are just highly iconic, used in the anime a lot, cards that are, you know, really sought after. And the prices of these cards have actually been going up recently. But you can get, you know, any one of these other than the Lord of D for about, like, you know, $10 to $25 or so, depending on condition. And it's actually quite difficult to find these cards in good condition. Kids like to play with them. They're, you know, shiny secret rare cards. And then also going off of that, the sealed tins for the 2002 promo cards are quite expensive right now. For a sealed tin, other than the Lord of D again, you're talking to, you know, $150 to $250 to buy one of them. So these cards coming out as mint condition anymore are pretty much going to be, you know, non-existent. It's kind of doubtful that someone's going to buy the tin at, you know, $200 or so to open it just to get a mint condition one of these, unless the prices of these go up high in value. And then also recently a Red Eyes Black Dragon that was part of the BPT 2002 10s that was graded as a PSA 10, and it had the reverse hollow foil, the hollow foil going in the wrong direction. That recently sold on eBay for $250. So obviously, I think that was way more than what it was worth. If you think about like $250, you know, you could buy a first edition Change of Heart from Metal Raiders for that, or a first edition LOB Guy of the Fierce Knight for that much money. So buying a promo card at that much is, you know, one that's pretty readily available. It's not that rare. I think was, you know, a big overpay by the person that bought it, but it's still important, or it's still worth mentioning, because that is, you know, a PSA 10 card that sold for, you know, $250. That's when these cards are, you know, only selling for like, you know, $10-15 that you can find. And then also another big reason why I like these cards so much as investing value is that because there are the reverse hollow foil and then the correct hollow foil, instead of this being just like a 6-card set, it's more like a 12-card set for anyone that wants the you know, master collection of these, which I'm assuming most collectors are going to want both the error and non-error versions of these cards. And then lastly, just kind of like a heads up, the 2003 Blue Eyes White Dragon actually got printed as the wrong artwork. It was supposed to have the starter deck Kaiba artwork to match the tin. The tin has the starter deck Kaiba artwork featured on it, but it actually had the LOB artwork. So it looks the same as the 2003 promo card, but what you can use to tell the difference is, for one, the 2003 version doesn't have the limited edition, and then the 2002 version, the BPT, it says 003, and the 2003 version it says 009. So that's just a way to tell between the 2002 and 2003 Blue Eyes BPT promo cards. And like I said, the 2002 one is the one that you want, not the 2003. And so that'll wrap up this video. Hopefully this will be helpful for anybody that's curious about vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards and why they're so collectible and what the value behind them are. Most Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they tend to have their value based on how good the card is, in modern era anyway, because the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG is the most prevalent thing about Yu-Gi-Oh. Everything is based around the card game. But with the old vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards, a lot of it is also just based on how well the card is liked and how much it was used in the anime. But that's all for today, or that's all for this video. And as always, thank you for watching.